live. Welcome everyone to the next Gibberish Discussions podcast. My name is Josh, aka Gibberish, and together we are joined by John today. Hi, John.
Howdy, howdy. How are you?
I'm doing good. Today we have a very interesting thing. It's just us two, and we're going to be talking about three very interesting segments today. What Guardians of the Galaxy 4 possibly could look like in the future if it does happen. Some James Gunn remarks there. Star Wars D23 has been pushed back to 2021. And then finally, we're going to be talking about the latest Space Force Netflix show, the one with Steve Carell, John Malkovich, and all of the others. So, let's talk about it. Starting with Guardians of the Galaxy 4 remarks. Uh, so basically, all we know is that James Gunn has made a statement saying that if there ever is a Guardians 4, it will have a different roster than what we're used to. So probably no like Star Lord, no Gamora, maybe Groot or Rocket. Those two are probably a little more flexible since they're CG characters. And this is also a flexibility with contracts. Chris Pratt's contract, Zoe Saldana. So with those, we have a different roster and a different crew, kind of like how the Suicide Squad does and all that. And most likely, James Gunn would not direct this after the whole James Gunn and Disney situation. So, just starting off with this information, I'm just going to start off, John, and just ask, do you want this? Is this something you would be interested in?
Well, is it an entirely new roster or just a new roster? Because new roster doesn't mean everybody's changed necessarily.
He wasn't specific, so
Yeah.
it's possible it could be a whole new thing, or maybe some would change. My guess is that at least half of the cast would probably be changed, at least.
See, because my thoughts were kind of like how it is for the Avengers. In Age of Ultron, we got two new or I guess technically, it's two, Vision and
One.
Scarlet Witch,
Mm-hmm.
and they were added to the team, and others were taken away. So I figured the same thing would be true for here. Like we already know in Guardians 3 that Thor is going to play a part in it. So
Mm-hmm.
so
Well,
it seems so that's already a change to the roster, and then you know Gamora might leave considering where we left her in Endgame and no longer feel part of the group.
yeah,
So it doesn't necessarily surprise me that they're doing that. I don't think they're just gonna slip them all four of them out or all five of them out at once and then replace a whole another five. I think it's
mm-hmm.
ebb and flow like the Avengers have.
Yeah, kind of a slow transition with that. I think one big difference is though is that Age of Ultron added people to the group and didn't take anyone away. So what do you think of that? I mean, Thor flew away, but he came back. So, like,
Yeah.
do you think there's like someone could die in Guardians 3 that could affect this, or something like that? A big event like that, or you think maybe they just let go of the title and pass it on to a new gang of misfits?
I think it's going to be like a slow transition for the most part. Like I can see them taking the Peter and Gamora storyline. They try to restart a relationship, but they're different
Mm-hmm.
people now. Peter Krill has grown from where he was when he first met the original Gamora, and she's this entirely different character that hasn't experienced the growth that the other Gamora has. So they could part ways and just find that they can't rework the magic due to
Yeah.
that, and that's might be how she leaves or how Peter leaves.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think a first Guardians character to kill would probably be like Drax or a Rocket because they've already messed up with Groot, and Peter's kind of the leader right now. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe so you think Drax or one of the other side characters are more likely to get out?
most likely,
Because I was thinking maybe it might be one more of the main characters, uh, and then like the side characters we know could kind of grow into the leaders, if that makes sense.
maybe see Mantis go higher up in the
Mantis
ranking, I
becomes the
guess.
new captain. She
Captain
fights
Mantis.
with knives.
Yeah.
So, is this something you would like the story idea? Like, do you think that they could continue to have Guardians and crossover events with Avengers if they did this right?
Well, yeah, if they do it right, I mean, we don't know what's gonna happen in Guardians 3, so it's hard. So Guardians 3 may end in such a poetic way, and they're like, you know what, great trilogy, but
Mm-hmm.
don't mess with a good thing. You got a cool trilogy. If you make it a quadrilogy, however you say that word, and you
Quadrilogy, I
screw,
think it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
and you screw it up, then that just messes with the symmetry of it all. So like that was my big issue with Toy Story 4 is they shouldn't have made it. Toy Story 3 had a perfect ending to the trilogy,
Mm-hmm.
but so I might feel that way after Guardians 3, but yeah, just slowly change out the characters in a way that naturally progresses the story, just like you've done with Avengers.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one thing is very interesting is that James Gunn has had a big influence on the Guardians as being their only director so far, and
And writer too, for both
yeah.
of them.
So after he got fired and then rehired, there was all that drama. He's gonna be on the next Suicide Squad movie. So what do you do? If James Gunn wasn't to direct this, is there a director on the top of your head you think could have some good influences on there? Someone who you think could do a good job?
Hmm. You see, I don't know that many directors, so that'd be kind
Mm-hmm.
of hard. What's the name of the woman who directed the Wonder Woman movie?
I don't know. I don't know her name.
I know it somewhere in here, but
It's Patty Jenkins.
Patty Jenkins. Perhaps she. I mean, she made the first person to make a actually decent DC movie in the DC universe.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, true.
I think the Russo brothers are tuckered out. I don't see Josh Wheaton coming back either because he tired out after Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think it's very interesting the kind of thing that I feel like a director who probably wouldn't do it but would do a good job is Taika Waititi. He's
oh
one of
yeah,
my favorite directors right now, so I think he could do a really cool version of that. Um,
and Ragnarok and Guardians had similar like comedic feels to them
hmm
too. So yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, because like Thor 3 took like the wackiness of Guardians and put it into like an Avengers movie, which I really enjoyed. Um, But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential. Uh, I am I wouldn't be as enthusiastic to go watch the next Guardians movie without James Gunn, just because he has such a big influence on those characters. But I do think it is something they could do. Uh, so I guess it is kind of hard to say without Guardians 3. But do you want a Guardians 4, or would you rather just a trilogy?
Well, again, it depends on how they leave it because they can leave it in a way that's so perfect. You don't want to
Hmm
don't make a Back to the Future 4. That type of
yeah,
that type of deal. But
that
they
would
can
not be
also
good.
end it. It would not.
Uh,
Or it could leave it in such a way that I want to see more. I want to see where this character goes or where that character goes or what happens when this new person enters into the group.
hmm
So
I have a feeling that James Gunn is going to tie this one up. This being his last Guardians movie, I can totally just see him being like, "Nope, screw y'all. You know, you're just gonna deal with my trilogy. If you're gonna do a fourth, you're gonna kind of screw yourselves over." It's possible they could do something like it wouldn't be called Guardians 4. It could be like kind of like the Young Avengers or the New Avengers,
yeah.
something like that.
Well,
Maybe they rename it a little bit.
I think if Kevin Feige has plans for the Guardians outside of the three movies, he'll have because Kevin Feige's always allowed for a lot of freedom in the writing and directing, but he
Hmm
still is in charge and there to create an overall narrative. So if Kevin
hmm
Feige isn't done with the Guardians, he's not going to allow James Gunn to have like a complete ending like that. So it depends on what's in Feige's vision for the future.
yeah. The great God Feige decides all. Um, so yeah, Guardians 4. Not much that we know about it, to be honest. It's gonna be really weird. I I'm not a huge fan of it. Uh, I think what they do, they should just name it something else, not Guardians Volume 4. The volumes thing is a very much thing kind of to Quill and the records that he has and all that. So if they do it, they need to. I think they need to kind of show this is like not a sequel, but kind of like a not a rebooting. But you kind of know what I mean, right? Like a show
So
that
like
this
an
is a new thing.
Asgardians of the Galaxy, the Asgardians of the Galaxy with Thor. I don't know.
Ah, see, I don't think Thor is gonna be in Guardians 3, so I think we'll see how
That's
that
certainly
works.
the way the end game left us to think or believe.
True. The goal was
So
for Guardians 3 to become before Thor Love and Thunder, but after the whole James Gunn drama,
yeah,
they pushed it back. So it's possible that Endgame was created with that intention, and then it's going to be kind of interesting to see how they wiggle them out of that. So I think Thor 4 is going to be our first indication of where the Guardians are at. Um,
yeah,
Plus, we got Adam Warlock teaser at the end of Guardians Volume 2, which has some
true.
potential. Maybe
And
he.
I haven't done anything with that yet. So
Yeah, I think that was very much of a Phase 4 and 5 setup. Like, I don't think we'll
yeah,
get any real Adam Warlock till Phase 5. Just like we didn't get any Vision stuff till Phase 2 in Age of Ultron.
yeah,
That's my guess. I think what they're going to do is they're going to try to build Phase 4 with like the sequels, Doctor Strange,
yeah.
and use because like right now, like Infinity Saga was like their peak, right? It was great, and I've heard a lot of
Hmm.
people say like they're nervous about the future of Marvel, especially with the lineup that they currently have. I think what they're using this golden age to throw out the weird movies, like the
Yeah.
Shang-Chi, the Eternals, the ones that scare people that are so weird. Uh, I think
But
once
that
you
people
get
are
the
so into super.
sorry,
Sorry, the
go ahead.
I was gonna say, but they're so into it because
Hmm.
superhero. Like 10 years ago, we couldn't make all these strange movies, but because it's so popular now, wide audiences will go to something like really off kilter because it's superheroes in the pop. It's popular culture now. So
Yeah, I think that the Kevin Feige is smart enough. I think because he has said they've planned out the next 5 years. Like he said that we know what we're
yeah,
doing for the next 5 years, and they've already said that they're gonna set up. They've already set up like the next Thanos and stuff like that. So it is gonna be really interesting. I just personally think they're gonna use these like Shang-Chi, Eternals, get the weird ones out of the way first, get people to fall in love with them like they did with Guardians, and then kind of build
yeah.
from there. Well, moving on to segment two, we're going to be talking about the Star Wars D23 convention and its pushback. So let's get into that. Basically, that was moved to next year. All right, not much to say about that.
COVID did it again.
COVID did it again. The darn COVID. But we got a lot of interesting. There were a lot of people saying that because of this, it was going to be a huge event next year. With probably just a lot more to show than they planned. Usually, what conventions do is like the first year is kind of very subtle, and then like the next year after that, like every 2 years. So I think 2021 was already planning to be like a huge event, but like with this, it's now something to really talk about. So basically, my question is, what do you think got pushed back that is causing people to be excited about it? That's my one question. What do you think got pushed back, just on the top of your head?
Why do I think it got pushed back?
No,
Is that
like,
the
what do you
question?
think? What content do you think they're going to announce that they were going to announce that got pushed back? So you think they were going to tell us the release date for the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, maybe a live-action Ahsoka series, something like that?
Yeah, I can see them giving some more clear detail on when the Obi-Wan or Ahsoka series might come out. I mean, I imagine they'd already fairly well into production of the Mandalorian season 2, so maybe a trailer for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because what Mandalorian season 1 came out in December, it's already halfway through the year. So December is 6 months away. They want to start advertising it sooner. So if they have that content, I imagine that'd be a good place to release it.
Mm-hmm.
Because they always release it at these they're not conferences, these
Conventions?
conventions. Yes, the conventions before they release it to the whole internet. So
Yeah. Do you think the what do you think is going to be announced though? Anything on the top of your head?
Not really. No, I think most of the stuff. I mean, unless there's a new series or a new movie, but I don't know how we could predict what that was. So
That's true. There are rumors that they have announced that there is another live action show that they haven't announced yet is in
mm,
production. I think the biggest speculation is the live Ahsoka series. Rosario Dawson has been confirmed to be cast as Ahsoka in the Mandalorian season 2. Which
mm,
the rumor is with that is that basically Ahsoka will make like a cameo in the Mandalorian season 2, and in that it will uh she'll basically they'll kind of feel it out, see how people reacted to Ahsoka in Mandalorian season 2, and if that does well, then she'll get her own series. But I think her own series is in production. That's my guess.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, she's got a Ahsoka. I think is the most logical. She just has like so much of a fan base behind her, uh,
yeah.
especially with Clone
She
Wars just ending and
yeah,
all
she
that.
has a very high likability to her.
Yeah.
So
One thing I was kind of surprised is I was surprised they didn't just get Ashley Eckstein to the girl who voices Ahsoka to play her. But I mean, Rosario Dawson's a great actress and
yeah,
someone that the fans have actually been asking for. So I hope it
she
goes
is
well.
yeah, she is a good actress. Like she played the nurse in the Daredevil series or the
Mhm.
overall Defenders. She was in several of them.
Mhm.
She's a very talented actress, and voice acting is different than actually acting in front of a camera. Like they're two
Mhm.
different mediums. Not everybody can. Some people can do both. Some people can. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things where I'm not sure she would the voice actor would even want to or know how to play her live on screen.
That's more than possible. It's just gonna be weird because she's the only one who has ever played Ahsoka, so that is
Yeah.
gonna be a change to uh, get used to. But yeah, I think that and Obi Wan Kenobi series we haven't really heard a bunch of that except for that it's been delayed. Um, so I wouldn't have been surprised if someone like that got pushed with the D23 Obi Wan Kenobi Ahsoka. There's also a Rebel sequel show, uh, animated show that might come out. So that has been
Mm.
rumored, and that's been rumored for a while now. The Rebel sequel, and this is something I really want to talk about for a second. The Rebels show. So Clone Wars to me is one of the best Star Wars content. I really enjoy
Hmm.
it. It's not all great. There are episodes like the episodes in season 7 with those Martell sisters and all that. I did not enjoy that episode. Those little arc. There are some episodes that aren't great, but I would say majority of the show, like 80%, I enjoyed. Um,
It definitely enhanced the prequels. Like having
mhm,
watched all the Clone Wars, it made me believe the bond between Anakin and Obi-Wan
mhm,
better, and especially in episode 3, because you just like there's so much time jump in between the movies, you don't get to see that growth.
exactly.
I mean, Obi-Wan Kenobi said, "You're my brother, Anakin. I loved you." And because Ewan McGregor is such a great actor, he sold the hell out of it. But you
Yeah,
don't really actually see that love throughout all three of the movies.
which is
So it's
which is kind of like an error I think of George Lucas's prequel trilogy
yeah,
is that if he had done that right, we wouldn't have need this show. But I do think the show is really good, and it's funny that you mentioned that, John, because the reason why I'm interested in a Rebel sequel show is Clone Wars is based in the prequels. Rebels is
hmm
roughly based in the originals. So my question is, this
yeah.
next
It's a little bit
sequel,
before New Hope.
yeah, yeah. It like I think it ends around the new. I think it ends a little bit after like Empire, right? Doesn't it end right before Return of the Jedi? I
Well,
th-
I haven't seen the ending of it, but I know at least the start of it was around the same time
mhm.
period as A New Hope, because
Yes.
at least where I got to, Darth Maul was just killed.
Mhm.
I guess spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen
Nah,
Star Wars
Rebels
Rebels.
has been out for a
Sorry.
while. You're good. You're good.
Yeah. And then you see little Luke in the background, and he's a kid,
Yeah.
too young to be the Luke we know in A New Hope. So
Yeah. Yeah. Rebels has
that
set
definitely
a
far
couple.
into the series. It's still pre New Hope.
Yeah, Rebels is still set a couple years before New Hope, but If I'm right, it does go pretty far. Maybe it ends right as A New Hope starts, but
maybe.
my point with this is that we each one of these anime shows has been put into the trilogies that we know of, roughly. Rebels is a little bit
Yeah.
off. So my question is, with this being set in the sequels, is it possible that this Rebels sequel can elevate the sequels like Clone Wars did to the prequels? If do you know what I'm saying?
I do. Possibly, but I would say that the problems with the sequels are different than the problems of the prequels. So
Okay.
they'd have to do it in a different way because like the problem with the I mean the main problem with the sequels besides bad dialogue is a failure to produce like actual connection between the characters.
Mm-hmm.
The ma- and Rebels filled that. The problem with the whole overall story made sense. Like there was a connectivity between all three movies. There's not that connectivity with the sequel trilogy. Each movie is
Mm-hmm.
very much like fighting to compete different ideologies. So like
Yeah.
number two is a middle finger. I mean, number eight is a middle finger to seven. Number nine is a middle finger to eight,
Mm-hmm.
and you just there's no cohesion in there. So I'm not sure how you could fix that.
Yeah, I think with something like my ideal, because I actually personally, this is just my personal opinion. Uh,
Yeah,
I actually think that Force Awakens to Last Jedi flows well enough in the trilogy. I think it's nine that really upsets the trilogy, for me. Uh,
definitely.
but like eight and seven, I can see those flowing together. I think Ryan Johnson did. He did change the direction drastically, but to me at least, he flowed it together well enough with what J.J. Abrams started. So what I would like to see is a Rebel show set between episode 8 and episode 9. I would like to see a show that, because like there's a big time gap between 8 and 9. I think there's like a seriously like a 3 year, or it's a big like a 2 year or 3 year gap between the two. So I would like to see maybe Ray and Leia training. I would like to see maybe Finn and Poe and Ray going on missions more. See Kylo Ren, stuff like that. I would like to see.
Maybe finally find out what Finn wanted to tell Ray because they never revealed it in the
Huh.
movie. They just set it up
Huh.
like three times
Ah.
and then dropped it.
I think we all know what that was. Just, yeah, let's not talk about that. But no, with this whole thing, I think that Rebels is just a really interesting way to help connect the sequel trilogy. Because before the sequels come out, and you may disagree with this, the prequels weren't looked on the best. They are no, I can I think I can safely say they are worse than the originals. They're funnier than the
Oh,
originals, that's
definitely.
for sure. The memes are amazing, especially from Revenge of the Sith. But uh, you know, you were saying like sequels have like cheesy dialogue and stuff like that. I mean, have you seen some of the prequel dialogue that they have? Everything is so soft here and
No, I was talking
smooth.
about the prequel
Oh, you were
dialogue.
talking about the prequel. Okay, I thought you were talking about the
Yeah.
sequels when you said that, and I was
No.
like, ah. But for me, like the prequels do have a cohesive storyline, unlike the sequels. But the prequels didn't have a lot of character. I think the problem with the prequels was the characters, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I liked Obi-Wan, and I liked Mace Windu, and I liked Qui-Gon Jinn. The rest of them I was kind of iffy about, but the Clone Wars really had me care about them. So the sequel show for the sequels, the problem with sequels is that the stories don't flow together that well, right?
No, they
So
don't.
what we need is probably like a show that can lets them all flow together, right? Is that something what you're thinking? Because I would say that roughly that we do kind of care about the characters to an extent. I understand that some like Finn have really got destroyed in some. We got characters like
Yeah,
Rose and
they
stuff
did
like
his
that.
character just so dirty. I mean,
But
from where he started off, yeah, we don't have to go into that again.
but like with Ray, I like Ray and I like Kylo Ren. I
Yeah,
think General Hux is a character that could be fleshed out more to be more likable. I think you know what I mean. Like I think there are a lot of ways to make this interesting, and maybe have something like Phasma come back. You know, Darth Maul died in the
Yeah.
prequels, and they brought him back. So maybe have something like that. My point is that there are a lot of interesting things you can do. So now that I'm done with like my 3 minute rant, what do you think of a sequel animated show?
I mean, I'm for it. I mean, because it definitely can. It Well, it can hurt, but it can also help a lot too. You know, it could bring a better level of um connectivity between the three movies, that because it's definitely needed. So fill
Hmm.
up some of the plot holes that were left.
I think one thing, some big things they could do is if they was set between 8 and 9, it could do a good job of hinting at Palpatine's return better. Maybe get some
Yeah,
explanations on that. It could do a good job on fleshing out Hux and characters like Finn more. Get us to like them a little more. Uh, Characters like Leia, who, you know, of course, after Last Jedi, maybe have her be more of a master to Rey. I think one thing that Clone Wars did really well is that it focused on characters who you didn't know how they were going to end. Like it focused on Ahsoka and Maul, which we don't see those in Revenge of the Sith, right? So we don't know if they
yeah.
die or not. So I think doing something like that could be really interesting. Uh,
Also, maybe like actually putting in some actual like questionable amount of character into Rey, so we can actually see that she might end up turning to the dark side. Because
mhm.
because the whole thing in movie 9 was she was supposed to be afraid that she might,
Yeah.
but like she's always been like this like ridiculously moral character who's always done the right thing, always made the right decision
Hmm.
ever. Like they didn't give her a character flaw throughout the whole trilogy, really. So like you saw it with
She got
Anakin.
character flaw. I'm not gonna have this Ray argument with you again. All
Okay,
right, we can save that
my,
for
my
our gibberish debates.
well, I was just saying, like, Luke, you saw how he might turn to the dark side. You
Yeah.
saw that with Anakin, even though you already knew he would. Uh, but you just didn't really like. I never saw an action Ray did and think, oh, she might turn to the dark side. Like she didn't intend
Yeah.
to use the lightning on
The
that
ship.
ship port. It just accidentally happened.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't a decision she made. Like it was when Anakin killed the
Younglings.
when he killed those the things on
Oh,
Tatooine.
the Tusken Raiders.
Tusken Raiders. When you saw Luke, wearing that new dark clothing, and you wonder, what is he doing? There's definitely different times where Luke makes bad decisions, like when
Mm-hmm.
he went after Vader
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Episode 2. So like
I
you actually saw how he might, but
I think that that was J.J. Abrams just trying to put what he really wanted to in
yeah,
9, because I think Ryan Johnson in 8 was just trying to say, because Ryan Johnson did hint at it with, you know, her going into the hole and stuff like that, but he never fully, like, he made it clear she's not going to go to the dark. And I feel like JJ kind of upset at that. But that is something that a sequel show could do.
yeah.
Well, we went off topic from D23 real quick into Rebels sequel, but I think I enjoyed that a little more talking about that. So I think it all ended up okay.
I actually forgot we were talking about D23 originally.
Um, So, final topic for today is going to be the Space Force Netflix original show. This show is, you know, centered around Steve Carell's character, who is transferred to a new branch of the military Space Force. Um, it is a show that has not been well received by critics. It has, I believe, a 39% on the critic review of Rotten Tomatoes and a 77% audience score. I know most people would say that the audience score is what they look at, but 77% is still not too great. So, looking at that, because John, you've seen it all, right? I've seen like
Yeah,
half the
I
show.
just finished the 10th. I just finished the last episode earlier
Nice, nice.
today. So
So, what were your initial thoughts afterwards? Did you like it? Did you think it was worth it in the end?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was funny. I mean, a lot of it was like really dry, stupid humor, which is my type of humor. So
Hmm. Yeah, I think with such a high list cast in there, because they had a lot of
hmm
big people in that show. So I think that also kind of blew up expectations as well for the show. Do you see why people may give this show a lower rating?
Uh, I imagine some of it would probably be political, like highly partisan, Trump people might not like it because it's literally the show is based off idea Trump suggested that we have a space force,
Hmm.
and the early episodes of the show hint to that especially,
Yeah.
and there are jokes made to like the president's birthday and how how the space force needs to do something special for him and
Hmm.
all this other stuff. So it is clearly to some degree mocking Trump. So I can see how partisan people or heavily partisan people wouldn't like that. But
Yeah. But like, besides like the political view, what do you think about that? Do you think that maybe like, because I was watching it with my family for a while, and then they stopped after like episode three. They just said they weren't enjoying the type of humor. Uh, I think it is a show similar to The Office to some aspects.
yeah,
And like, cause like The Office, like not every joke lands in The Office, and The Office, you kind of had to go through some like I know some people like the first season, but I would say the majority of people said the first season isn't great. Um, so do you think this is a situation like that? That maybe it's just the first season is like the hurdle to get over?
well, I think I heard something about Steve Carell saying something to that
Mm-hmm.
effect.
Yeah,
Um,
he said that this season is similar to the first season of The Office. It's supposed to be setting up a crazy good show, is what he said.
yeah. And so I remember hearing about that. My thoughts are, I mean, I like the first. I'm one of the people who like the first season of The Office, so I guess I'm in the minority in that. But I never
Mm-hmm.
had a problem with it. And I think the same is true for me for Space Force. I liked it. It was the best show I ever saw, but it made me laugh and I enjoyed it. I'd watch it again and I'd watch season two when it comes out. So if that's, I mean, if I like it enough to at least do that, so that's passing grade for me. So
That's kind of how I am. I'm not done with the show yet, but I do think there were some very moments that just made me laugh. Especially at the
yeah.
end of the first episode when he sees that the Chinese or Russians or whatever are taking his satellite apart, and he's just like, "Mother," and he just screams it
Well,
out.
just the way they did it too, like that, like really ancient, like almost like it was a movie from the '60s trying to do space,
Yeah.
like it was so purposely underdone. I thought that was
It
hilarious.
was that was like a very Steve Carell moment. And for something like this is just a personal thing. In comedy shows, I really think you got to be careful with cursing in a show like that. Now, I don't mind cursing in shows most of the time if it's used properly. For me, cursing always needs to like push forward the kind of like there needs to be a reason. If I'm watching a show about kindergartners and the kindergartners are cursing, saying the f word, that doesn't make sense to me. But like I like moments like that when he you just scream, mutter, so forth.
Yeah.
I found that pretty funny. That was a good moment for that. I do feel like sometimes though the cursing for trying to be humor kind of felt dry. Was that just me, or did you feel the same way?
I mean, I never really noticed. I mean, to me, like that scene, the funny part wasn't necessarily the mother
Hmm.
thing. It was the
The act
editing. So
itself.
maybe I didn't really notice any cursing humor. Like
Hmm.
I'll be honest, I hardly notice when the actor is cursed at all. It doesn't.
Hmm.
Maybe that's a bad thing, but it doesn't phase me when I hear
No.
it. So it doesn't really register.
Hmm.
So I don't really notice it having a lot of curse words in the show.
No, I was just curious if like that was just me or not. So it looks like it is just me. Um. So what different what's different from this show than other shows than most average comedy shows?
Uh, doesn't have a studio audience, so there's no like laugh tracks or anything like that.
Hey,
That's mostly
yay.
going out of the way anyways. So
Yeah, but it's not a mockumentary like The Office, which I
no,
think is kind of
it's not that
important.
either. it is definitely a mocking show, but it's
Oh
not a
yes,
mockumentary. Yeah.
it's shot like a movie. Like every scene is shot
Yeah,
very dramatic and like over the top, which I kind of love.
definitely. Yeah, it's.
Do you think this is like the next Office? Do you think there's potential for this to grow into a show just as big as The Office? Obviously, they're different shows, but you know.
I mean, possibly we get the same people, the same guy leading the shows. Uh, Based off the first season, I wouldn't place it there. I think it still has a long way to go before to prove itself to being worthy of that. But
Mm-hmm. I do think it has a long way to go before something like that could ever be um, the real deal. I think season
yeah,
2 is going to be the big judgment to kind of see where the show can go. But
yeah,
I think it has potential. It has a great storyline, and I'm very interested to see different things, like Lisa Kudra's character, why is she in jail, stuff like that.
yeah. It's so weird that they never even addressed why. Like there was a time lapse and like part first episode like they were in the bed together. There was like a time lapse, and all of a sudden she's in prison. No explanation.
Yeah, like that. Like to me, that is a problem. Like with writing, I understand leaving cliffhangers, but I do think they should have addressed it. What do you think? Because like to me, that was a problem with the show that I actually was like annoyed with. Were you annoyed with that, or you just found that funny?
Well, I thought it was like a deliberate choice.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were just trying to be like be random with it. So I didn't mind it too much. I am definitely curious. Like I actually went back to the first episode. Like, did I miss something here?
That's why they did it for rewatchability. They wanted you to
Because I
go
think I
back.
because I think I watched like half the first episode, then I went to bed, and then I finished the second half, and watched and watched the rest of it. But the whole time going through it, I'm like, I don't remember her going to prison. So I tried to go
it,
back, and it was like, oh, it's not there. What the hell?
it
But
it's pretty weird.
it was so deliberately left out because she was she was in prison throughout the whole series. There were several. But she still appeared. Like characters still interacted
Hmm.
with her. So like it's not a thing that you figured they'd mention at least once somewhere in the dialogue, but it never is to the degree that I thought it was deliberate and intentional. So
Yeah,
not necessarily as a cliffhanger, just as like a running joke. Like so,
yeah. I think it was really weird. I think one thing that I like about Netflix binging is that like when season 2 comes out and someone watches that for the first time, and like season 2 may answer this question why she's in jail. Uh,
yeah,
I think like maybe someone will have like that same like, oh come on, because they don't have to wait till next year. So,
yeah.
but I like the show so far. I think it has a lot of room to grow, but a lot of fun potential to go to it. So,
I thought it was funny when she came out in cornrows. I was like, I thought to myself, I'm gonna call her Cornrow Phoebe from now on. That was kind of.
yeah, they should have just called her Phoebe in the show. That would have been great. I would
Oh,
I
that
would
would
have
have been
been fine with that.
hilarious. I would have loved that. It would have been funny if she actually somehow was Phoebe.
It's like this is all taking place in the Friends universe. Phoebe moved to Ohio with her husband. She
Or her
divorced
sister
Mike
Ursula.
because Mike went
Or her,
and because Mike went and became Ant Man, and she couldn't handle that life.
or her twin sister Elsa.
Oh my.
Remember that?
No, no. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching this episode of Gibberish discussions. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We will have every episode is uploaded on Monday at 12 p.m. on the dot. So be sure to see the next episode and check out our previous episodes where we talked about Narnia and all other things movie and pop culture related. We also have a new tribute video that is up, so please check that out for Ahsoka Tano. And yeah, John, you got anything to plug in?
No, I'm good, man.
All right. And we also have a new channel. If you're into fan fiction and rewriting stories, check out Could Be Better on YouTube. All right. And we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Adios.